Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Phil for another spoiler discussion on The Mandalorian. This week, we are, of course, talking Chapter 21, The Pirate, directed by Peter Ramsey, and the fifth episode of the third season. But before we get into all that stuff, Phil, how are you doing tonight, both in terms of Star Wars hype and your recent travels?
In terms of Star Wars hype, we'll get into that as we go through this episode and talk about last week's episode, the one episode I really should have been here to talk about, but wasn't because I wasn't here. My recent trip was amazing. I'm absolutely exhausted. The jet lag is absolutely killing me. So I'm trying to adjust my clock back to a normal time rather than sat at 5 o'clock in the morning going, I am wide awake. I really should be asleep. It's rather jaunty. But no, had an absolutely cracking time. Out in Chicago, obviously. Went to Boston as well, but the actual World Championships is what I was there for. And funny enough, kind of weirdly ties into today's episode, talking about, because all the prize support was Rebels themed. And we'll find out what that means later on, because as a reminder, this is a spoiler discussion. You haven't watched today's episode of Mandalorian, please do so before we talk about everything else, because there's a lot to unpack, and that I don't want to spoil too much if you haven't already seen it.
Yeah, it's going to be one of these episodes where we've got, we're going to quickly get your thoughts on last week. We're going to talk about a lot happened today. We've had probably, I'm not going to jump out. I mean, I think it's the best episode of the series so far, but this is certainly the episode in which all of the story points are now weaving into one, which was amazing to see, which we'll get into that. And then we've got, I say the ending. There's like two endings to a point that have got a lot to discuss, a lot to take away, which sets up the final few weeks beautifully. So we're going to get into all of that. And as Phil said, do click away if you haven't watched the episode, unless you're happy for it to be spoiled. And as always, comment below with your thoughts on The Mandalorian. We've got a few more episodes of these. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff happening on this channel. I don't know why it's took this long. We've got Star Wars branding now on StreamYard with the yellow. So there'll be a lot more Star Wars stuff happening. Star Wars Celebration in 9 days. We're going to all be there next week. There's so much stuff happening. Genuinely, if you're a fan of Star Wars, if you're interested in hearing about what people want to say about Star Wars, then do hit the subscribe button. And if you like this video, if you're enjoying what you're seeing or hearing, then hit that like button and do comment your thoughts. And it really does help us out. And if you want to find out what other videos we have coming up, I've listed a load of them on our social media this week. Go get us on Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letbox.com/cinemasavvy with a link to Redbubble in the description where you can pick up some merch. Speaking of merch, for anyone attending Star Wars Celebration, I don't have them on me. They haven't arrived yet. There's going to be a load of Cinema Savvy stickers that we'll hand out at the event. There'll be a lot of them. So anyone that does see us, come over and we'll give you one. It doesn't really matter. We've got a lot. We've got over 150. So hopefully they're here for one of the streams next week, but I'm not too sure if they'll arrive in time. It should be here by Monday. But all that plugging aside, Phil, you missed last week, as we know. We spoke about it on the episode. You commented as well. Just very quickly, your thoughts on Chapter 20.
I mean, Chapter 20 was one episode I really should have been here for, because, of course, it's talking more about Order 66, which, as you all know on here, is rather a passion of mine. But the episode for me, as I said, was iconic. Not just in terms of Mando terms, but also just in terms of Star Wars. You're both really starting to believe in the Creed and leading how she once did, but with more kind of decorum and understanding than in the Clone Wars, Rebels eras arc. And Katie Sackler was taking the character in so far in such a short kind of space of time. Like, it's really cool to see, both in terms of the animated and live action side of things.
No,
in terms of Sorry.
Yeah. Jump in. Sorry, my audio and video is out of sync. We were talking about before live. I think it's right in the video feed from what I can see. But continue. Sorry.
No worries. So for me, then, Order 66 is being fleshed out with kind of stories, not just like flashes of people, and having Ahmed Best come back to the Star Wars universe as a Jedi was just the icing on the cake. For me, Ahmed did not need to be redeemed in any way, shape, or form, but in the eyes of the fans who he did, I hope this has done so now. And I think it all kind of tied nicely together, all the little plot points we've had going on. I do think that my thoughts from last week, as I was saying to you guys, was the fact that I really do think that Bo is going to challenge Din for the Darksaber and to lead all of Mandalore. And considering where we go in this episode, I'm feeling pretty confident with that prediction.
Yeah, it's something we've discussed across the season so far. I certainly think it's. I mean, I've said it every week now, or the last 3 weeks. Sorry, every episode's ended with Bo-Katan, the final shot, and once again we are here on another episode where the final No, ignore me. The final shot wasn't Bo-Katan.
The penultimate shot is Bo-Katan.
I mean, I keep getting the ending of this episode, which I thought was great. It felt I hate using the post credits discussions, but it felt like it would be a post credit scene. But I don't like that in Star Wars, and I'm so glad that took its place at the end of the episode where it needed to be. It sets up things. It lets you think. It lets you theorize. But almost the final shot, the ending of the Mandalorian arc again. It ends with Bo-Katan, not Din Djarin. And anyone saying, "Oh, the Mandalorian's been sidelined in his own show," he definitely hasn't. They are building somebody up for very, very specific reasons. And the way I've kind of seen this series as a whole, if I'm talking about season 3 so far, 'cause I'm loving this, I've seen some absolute nonsense online. And listen, there's a lot of valid criticism. I don't think they're taking the show X, Y, and Z. Fine. But the overall story, we have known this from like the first episode or two this season. And I think we went as far as to predict it, like even into season 2. The next series, I'm going to go for that. Season 1, when we had the Darksaber, I've always said I believe the final shot of the Mandalorian series is going to be Finn on the throne in Mandalore with the Darksaber, with everyone kneeling before him. Probably not going to come true, but the logic that to me, season 1, that final shot with Moff Gideon has always indicated that the Mandalorian show is going to be about reclaiming Mandalore. It's going to be about Mandalore as a planet, the people, not just Din and Baby Yoda, which we thought at the time. Now we've had development with Grogu. We've got him back in the show. We're still building up the Mandalore stuff, the legends, the myths, the current story, the past. This season reminds me of Star Wars Rebels season 2, where it's gearing up for something. You don't know what. We've got past that introductory area. We're now building towards the bigger story, what this show wants to tell. And I think season 3 is the integral season to where the show is going to go. And I'll once again put the bets out there that Mandalorian is going to be 5 seasons long total and a film, or 6 seasons maximum. That's my prediction for a very long time. I know that's not the episode we're talking about, but how do you stand with that? Because it's something I'm seeing a lot online, and it's very curious. It's very curious how different people are reacting to this season so far.
It kind of, the way I look at it, kind of draws parallels to Asgard. As in Asgard and Mandalore are not it's not a place, it's a people. And with Mandalore, it's a creed. Mandalore itself, the planet, is the traditional home world of Mandalorians. But as we well know, when it comes to Mandalorians, it doesn't matter what race you are, what species you are, what color your skin is, no matter your orientation, no matter who you are in the galaxy, if you walk the creed, you're a Mandalorian. And there's a lot to do with the answers, a lot to do with the history of Mandalore and Mandalorians themselves. So I definitely I completely agree. It's that very much, we've gotten over the introduction, we've gotten over because when it comes to characters and long form storytelling, you have to be careful at first, how to flesh out, you have to build up the character. In film, you don't get that long, so you kind of have to do it on the fly, whereas in a TV show, you have the chance to do it properly. And if you don't do it properly, people will pick up on that. We've now got to a point where all the story points from season 1, 2, and 3, and also Boba Fett, where you had the 2.5 episode as well, is all coming to a point. Grogu has had his journey. He's gone and made a choice between being a Jedi and being a Mandalorian. I do wonder if we'll see the second Jedi Mandalorian, in terms of, we've already had Tar Vizsla, obviously the first Mandalorian who was a Jedi. I reckon we might see something similar with Grogu. I don't think that story's finished quite yet.
800 years, mate. We got 800 years for that story.
Exactly. No, and then of course with Bo, with Din, and Moff Gideon, especially with how this episode ended with the second epilogue, it's all coming together. And I do think that I've been hating on the whole Bo's the big bad of the series. I don't know. She's not the big bad. She's just a big rival. There's a big difference between the two. And I do see those two coming to a head, but I still see Mandalore being united under one of them.
Yes. I mean, even if you think about that, right? I mean, Paz Vizsla had an amazing season, and it's quite incredible that this character that was, season 1, just this big guy, like just a big Mandalorian. Oh, he's voiced by Jon Favreau. And that was kind of it. And, we've got a bit more of him. And this season, we're starting to see him be developed now. I know we got a bit of it in Book of Boba Fett, but today with his speech by the campfire, which we'll get to later on, you look at the history of Mandalore, right? You get into Star Wars mythology, and I'm not going to bore too many people with that who don't follow it, but What was Mandalore always famous for? Just like non-stop civil wars.
Mm-hmm.
And you sit there saying Mandal's not even been rebuilt yet, and I already see the seeds in place. I could see the armor of Bo-Katan. I could see Paz Vizsla with Din Djarin. I don't want to theorize about that stuff too much, but the writing for this series, although every episode isn't just plot in your face, they have planted the seeds and they've been growing them so well throughout. And once again with this one, even let's get to the opening scene. Let's talk some pirates. Now, Davy Jones, the Kale Monster, whatever you want to call King.
Swamp Thing. Yep.
Yep, Swamp Thing. I almost called him King Ghidorah then. King Gar, I can't remember the name. You can correct me.
Yeah.
There was a rumor when he popped up after was it episode 1 or 2. I can't remember what episode he appeared in, and it said, "Oh, they've put this character in to set him up to be the villain for Star Wars Skeleton Crew." And I was like, not in a horrible way, but like the vibe of Skeleton Crew, which we'll find out more about at the Lucasfilm panel next week.
Which we are going to. I can't wait.
And the Skeleton Crew, I was like, well, it sounds like Stranger Things in space. That's the core of that show so far. Look at the blurb. Look at what you've read. You've got your older actor in the leading role, and then a bunch of unknowns, and it's a teenage one set in the Mandalorian verse. I was like, not in a disrespectful way. I love this design of this pirate guy. I know they're paying homage to Davy Jones. Of course they are. I don't think I could take it seriously as a live action consistent seasonal villain. And this season quite abruptly put an end to that rumor, which is great. But even Navarro and Apollo Creed, well, sorry, I've been rewatching
Grief Karga.
films. Grief Karga, sorry. There's a lot of car weathers at the moment. Even with himself coming back into this episode, and we're getting the overhang of what happened before. Hey, my guys came to you, you attacked them, and I'm going to come for you. And guess what? I know you're not a New Republican. Last time we had you on, it was, of course, the Dr. Parsing episode, which we spoke about. That it was really interesting seeing the New Republic stuff. Even with this week, for when we get into it shortly, we got a lot of that politics. And those scenes can't function without the Dr. Pershing story from a few weeks ago, which I think is very important that we had that. And again, people can take these shows week to week. They can dislike things, which is absolutely fine. I've got no issue with that. But when you're seeing it all come together across 8 weeks, that's when I'm a lot more relaxed when I'm watching shows week to week. I don't scream and shout and demand stuff. I've always been patient. And I think even back to the first series of The Mandalorian when we did it on here, I think I remember saying that I'm going to refrain any and all judgment until I get to the end of series 1, which I think is the way it should be with TV. That if you're watching it week to week, wait to the end of the season to have your overall opinion. Don't complain that 3 episodes in out of 8 things haven't gone the way you think it's going to go, because that just leads you down to a dark hole. You should just be watching shit on Netflix that's bingeable, because it shows there's no patience. But that's nothing to do with pirates. Phil, your thoughts on the pirates and the opening?
So Gorian Shan, who is Swamp Thing / whatever you want to attach to it, I agree. I'm glad he's not kind of a big bad. He feels very Saturday morning cartoon villain, but you need a lighter villain whilst you're building up the plot points to the big villain. Remember, throughout Rebels, we originally had the Grand Inquisitor, then we had Vader, then we had Thrawn, and Thrawn was the big bad that was building up for the last couple of seasons, because we knew that Vader was off doing his things, going to the original trilogy era. We knew the Grand Inquisitor died after Series 1, so they needed to build up to something big, and of course, Thrawn's a big fan favorite. Again, go back to Clone Wars. Yes, we know what happens with General Grievous and Count Dooku, but it gave us Savage Opress, it gave us Asajj Ventress, it gave us so many other villains to go alongside that, and of course the resurrection of Maul and that character. So you need those little villains along the way. You can't have it all to be one big bad. It works in film, it doesn't work in TV so much, because you need those little plot points, or else you just kind of have one. It's just this big kind of story that never goes anywhere. It's why filler episodes, although they become annoying over time, they're just necessary at the time to go, right, we are getting from this point to this point, but we don't want to just fill it all with plot for plot's sake. Here's a little break. Here's what the characters are doing outside of this main arc. So Gorian Shan was a cool little villain, but I'm glad he's gone. He very much of Admiral Terranch, but I thought Terranch was better than this. But no, it's one of those things of, I like him. I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad he wasn't the big bad. But it also gave it gave purpose as well. It drew Mando back to Navarro. It drew him back with the Mandalorians to give them their new home. Filler to a point, plot points, yes, but not overarching. It served its purpose well. And yeah, the design was cool. And I still wish we had Hondo. I really do. But I will quite happily take Gorian Shard for this point.
I did think, today. So I haven't had these spoilt for me. So Wednesday's my office day. And, like anyone with a bit of common sense, listen, the people I follow, I absolutely love their opinion on Star Wars. In the year 2023, I'm not going to go on Twitter. Certainly a Twitter that's now terrible compared to the past, which is full of people that you don't follow appearing on your feed. Thank you, Elon Musk. And in which there's no way to hide from spoilers. And I did go on about 9:30, and nothing was spoiled, but I did see the title, The Pirate. And I got
same.
I got
and I
really
immediately went,
excited.
ooh, Hondo. Yes.
Yes.
No. Oh.
And then everyone kept putting, oh my god, redacted. And I was like, has Hondo made his appearance? I mean, he's alive, in theory, with the theme park. And I was also there, and obviously there was a lot of Bad Batch stuff. I was like, whoa, okay, Bad Batch stuff. Let's hide from here because, I'm going to watch that too today. And I've watched all of them today as a view. And I know that Dave is watching the Bad Batch, started earlier today. I love that, as you said, you need a Saturday morning cartoon villain. And I think you go back to the first season, right? Oh, make it more like season 1. It was a different villain every week on that first series. And it was great. And it's been the same in season 2. And series 3, as I'm saying, is the first time it's coming together, this overarching story. But this felt like that perfect balance of the earlier seasons combined with what this one needs. And I think, again, by weaving multiple storylines together, the effect of the Mandalorian group, let's pinpoint this. This is episode 5 of season 3. Let's pinpoint this. The first episode, we're coming back. Let's get back to the way we were. Episode 2, okay, let's go to Mandalore. Let's redeem himself. Episode 3, we need a New Republic point of view. Episode 4, we need the point of view of the Mandalorians and, Din in their trust, Bo-Katan in their trust. We can't have them choosing to settle down without anything that's been developed for the last 4 weeks so far. We can't have them setting up a new account. We can't have Bo-Katan eyeing something up. We can't have the Moff Gideon stuff. We can't have the New Republic establishment of how things are. Katie O'Brien's officer that she plays, I forgot the officer, Elia Kane, sorry, that's who Katie O'Brien's playing. Having that episode Dr. Pershing, we know she's a villain throughout. They have really set this season up well to make this episode stay an absolute standout within itself. And that, again, comes down to what has been set up and kind of in line with having the pirates. It's just a great way to get us all in. It makes perfect sense for the Mandalorian to go attack the pirates. He can't do it himself. We know he can do a lot of things himself. He needs everyone else around him to circle, and they've developed and built up. So full credit to the writing on this episode today. And if you don't think the other episodes led up to this, then I'm sorry, I don't know what.
Yeah, we can't help you. If you don't believe this, we can't help you at this point because it is so blatantly obvious, but without it being obvious, if that makes sense.
And listen, and if you wait until the end of the series to binge it, then great, it is going to work. And it has, because if you rewatch season 3 now, this episode's going to almost be not like a little end game, but it is a build up of everything that's came before it. And kind of in line of that, we've talked about some pirates. Let's talk the New Republic. Top Gun Maverick vibes. Let's go to the bar by the beach. No, we've not got Tom Cruise and Jennifer Connelly. We do have a cameo. Not the one you're smiling about. We've got 3 other cameos in the exact same scene.
We do, yeah. Because we've got Trapper Wolf, obviously.
I don't know the canon names. It's Deborah Chow, it's Dave Filoni, and it's Rick Famuyiwa.
Yeah, so Sash Ketta is Deborah Chow's character. You have Jim Dodger, who is Rick Famuyiwa's character, and you've got Trapper Wolf, of course, is Dave Filoni's character. I literally have the episode with the credits right for it because I knew I needed to remember those names. But there's the big one that I really want to talk about because I just nearly jumped out of my chair when I saw it and heard.
Say it, it's fine.
Because a very big purple Lasat happened to show up with Garros Eberelios, and I nearly jumped out of my chair. I was like, it's Zeb! It's the one Rebels character we didn't know what was going on. It's Zeb! Which makes me wonder if Agent Callis is around somewhere, but still, it's Zeb. I was so happy.
Listen, let's talk it. So, that was redacted. That was the moment I knew, whoa, okay. And I love this because, and I'm going to get into this straight away. I've seen a take. I'm not here just to moan about Twitter all the time. I'm not. there's a bit of a trend of Star Wars, and there's some very valid criticism in this, and some I massively disagree with. Oh, you have to watch this show to understand that show. I understand the logic of that for a lot of things, and I will take any of that criticism on board for Ahsoka. But if you're watching Ahsoka without watching Rebels, obviously you can't watch Rebels without watching Clone Wars. That's what trend. That's fine. But I've seen some people complaining about Zeb today, and I feel like it's too easy. It's too easy. He offers nothing to the plot. He offers nothing to the story.
If you don't know who Zeb is, he's just a random at the bar. That's what he is.
He's a cool alien at the bar. And you know what? I watched it with my dad tonight. Didn't mean anything to him. Why? I didn't even tell him. Yeah, this guy was off the animated show. He doesn't need to know. It's a cool alien that's on the screen. That's got a great voice. We know what that is. That's our reward for watching a show for however many years, for following a show for however many years, for thinking, hey, the Rebels cast, they're all getting done in live action.
Yep.
What's going to happen to Zeb? There'd been nothing. And I'm guessing what everyone's going to now wait for is to find out, is it motion capture? Is it all CG? Is it just them doing the voice? I would love it to be he's doing the voice and motion capture. That'd be proper, coming together. But to get that today, when no one expected it, knowing the fact he's working for the New Republic, because we had the epilogue to Rebels. But I love the fact we're starting to see the seeds of Rebels, and this won't be the last Rebels character I speak about today. But for story purposes, it's a great little cameo. There's not much to it, and it makes sense for him to be in that role. For where he's great, it makes sense for him to be working there. And I just wanted to get out, because it's frustrating when I see some, as I said, valid criticism. Yes, I'm always going to be in. For the sake of it, no, I'm going to call it out, which is exactly what this one was. So sorry to sort of be on a bit of a downer again. I'm not just here taking pot shots, but this to me was a great moment. And I will say a lot of the Star Wars fans I follow have been very respectful in not spoiling it. Everyone's been calling him redacted. Even I got involved in a redacted, but that was for a different character on a different show. And you'll hear about it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to talking about Bad Batch. But no, this is Zeb. And if you don't know who he is, it doesn't matter. It's just someone at the bar. And that's what that's what the great cameos are. If you don't know who they are, it doesn't matter. And I'll tell you for what, it also makes sense when you watch back Kenobi, because Ahmed's best character, I can't remember the name of his general off the top of my head, is in Kenobi, because he's at the bar. He lets Kenobi make a scene, says nothing, but he is there.
Attack of the Clones.
Not in Attack of the Clones, though. Is it in Kenobi? My brain's still fried from
you're it's Attack of the Clones, but
yes.
Apparently, according to Star Wars explained, it's a twin. He had a brother, which I love. Just keep Keller and Becker's a brother, which is the shady guy in episode 2 at the bar. So everyone check out the Ahmed Best cameos, which are great. Because it's just wonderful, and I'm sure we'll find out more with this story.
Yeah, either way, this is a cameo done right. This is if you don't know who the character is, it doesn't matter. It's just someone he adds to the story in terms of just the conversation that needs to happen at that moment in time, without adding the oh my god, this is one big character coming back. I mean, obviously, when we were at Celebration, they were premiering season 3 of Rebels. We are now at the point where we're watching season 3 of Mando. A lot's happened in the last few years, but it was really cool to see. But it's one of those moments where if you love it, you love it. If you don't know, you don't. It doesn't matter. But the New Republic itself is good to see them tying up the Andor episodes, people are calling it. But it's all these little plot points coming together with Moff Gideon and all these. It's all coming together slowly, because don't forget, as you well pointed out, this is going to be the birth of the First Order. Now I know the actual proper start of it in the book called Bloodline, but there's so much more they need to add to it, and this is where the show will do so. But it felt like this really felt like the culmination of all those little cameos we've had over the last few seasons, all coming together from all the little bits of the New Republic. It is a shame that Rangers of the New Republic got cancelled, so I would love to see what they would have done with it. But
we know who would have been in it.
Yeah, we know who would have been in it, yes. Although they just replace Cara Dune with Zeb. Just give me Rangers of the New Republic with Zeb. That would be amazing.
Rangers of the New Republic is weird for me, because I despise the title. That sounds so bad. I don't normally do this. I think I get it mixed up with Buzz Lightyear too much. But at the same time, if they're weaving in bits, because you're the same as me, right? I mean, we like a lot of Star Wars. We like a lot of what Star Wars gives us. The politics of Star Wars to me is as exciting as the action of Star Wars, and maybe that's because I'm a prequel generation kid. I watched Phantom Menace yesterday. I say the first time in a long time, less than a year. And and you just forget. I mean, you don't forget how good it is, but you forget how the entirety of not the expanded universe, but what the Phantom Menace did to open up the Star Wars universe for the future, from bringing in politics from Coruscant to a Senate to so many different things. The Phantom Menace was able to allow Star Wars to build from that. And not to slate the original trilogy, but I don't think the original trilogy ever had the capacity to build off. You had that trilogy and it was perfect. And I know they did, the sequels, which is great, but George Lucas, for keeping that prequel era locked in until he was ready to do it, I think he has genuinely gifted us what Star Wars equally is, which is, it's been about politics from its inception. George Lucas would tell you that the Empire is the Americans, that the Ewoks are the Viet Cong. It's amazing interview of him and James Cameron just discussing the politics of Star Wars and the different governments that he's seen as the Senate at different times. It's a really interesting discussion, but it's important to the story. And, when The Mandalorian was announced, it was always been told that it was going to explore the origins of the First Order. And, even off this short scene, I forgot the name of the actor that plays the commander in this. He's out of so many comedies. I know that Mean Girls.
Max Lloyd-Jones.
Yeah, what a great name to pop up. And, it made it a bit hard to take him seriously, but I don't care at the same time.
The problem is, in my mind, I just see him as Caleb the Cannibal from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, it's just one of them things where, and this is why I guess, everyone has this different effects of Star Wars, right? There's so many different people pop up over the last few years. And I know it happens in the American shows more, O'Shea Jackson Jr. in Kenobi's a big one for me. Because I'm sat there, obviously he looks a lot like his dad's. And obviously he plays his dad in Straight Outta Compton's Incredible. I was like, Ice Cube's son in Star Wars? But I liked him in it. And it's one of those kind of things of this.
Have you seen, sorry to go on a little bit of a tangent, have you seen the behind the scenes for Kenobi yet?
I saw the documentary when it released. I've not seen anything past that. And I know he was very excited, more than most.
Yeah, he was just flipping out. He's just completely nerding out about Star Wars in it. So it's cool to see, it's not just a name brought in. He was on set absolutely losing his mind, which is it's cool.
Yeah. And listen, there's nothing wrong with something like Andor where the approach is we're doing a show, I don't care about Star Wars. That's great as well. But I also love the thing when they are in on it, especially when it was, Kenobi was probably the biggest one in the sense of nostalgia. This is a generation's growing for these characters. These are all coming back, these actors, and that made sense. But kind of sticking back to this, the New Republic stuff, again, Katie O'Brien coming on board. I love that they went into it's going to be difficult to talk about because it's fictional discrimination. What we spoke about the New Republic, right, where they're assigned numbers, and it's like, they used to work for the Empire. I love that the back and forth today was, no, you kind of still are evil. It's like, hey, you can't talk to her like that. She's now reformed. I love the politics that's been played here, and I love the fact she's obviously such a blatant evil character. Talking about Navarro, there's something else in play on Navarro, and I do sit here and wonder, saying, what is the plan? And I guess when you get to the end of this episode, there is a little bit more of that plan coming to light. People are going to start working out things or making assumptions about who's planning what is involved. And I think there's more New Republic to come. Maybe not a lot over the next few episodes, but I'd be very surprised if we don't have. I mean, the Moff Gideon stuff, I don't know how they're going to handle it, and I'm very excited. They've done a very risky thing in having a lot of things happen off screen. But as I said at the start, I will get the end of the season is when I will know. There might be for one of them might be Last of Us. We might have an episode where we go back and spend an hour with Moff Gideon. So I'm holding judgment, but they're doing a very risky strategy there. But their writing's paying off to me so far.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I got nothing to add to it. I am genuinely intrigued to see where it goes, and also we've got so much more to talk about in this episode. But this is what I've loved about this particular series so far compared to the others. Yes, we've had bits to talk about, but in this particular series, the writing has given us so many angles and so many nuanced plot points. I think the writing has finally found its feet. The first season, of course, the first live action Star Wars. Yeah, we know how Star Wars works animated, but how does it work in live action? Series 2, again, okay, you're building off those characters. Book of Boba Fett, okay, it's the first time you're doing something that isn't with those characters, and yet you do. It's kind of a little bit of a mess, but at the same time, it's still got a good point. You're now finally getting to that point. Andor and Season 3 of Mando is where you've got those ground points finally built up, and this has given us so many little pieces. And I do think that I don't even know how much of Moff we're going to get, but it's going to be something big.
I am with you. I'm going to tie my theory at the end of this episode, and
Mm,
we're going to be on similar wavelengths. I feel.
mm.
But if we return to the Mandalorians again, bringing in the other segue, I want to talk about R5. So we got the joke R5 is part of the Rebel Alliance.
Yep.
This is the same R5 that popped at the start of episode 4.
Yep.
I feel like this theory has been online for a couple of years. I don't know if it was the point of view book. I know there was a story about R5 in the 40th anniversary episode 4 point of view book.
There is, yep.
But the logic was always that R5 knew R2D2 was the chosen one, and kind of, well, not commit suicide clearly, but drink the droid cyanide pill. And today he's been involved in the Rebel Alliance in the past. Phill, did the book say that outright? Because it made sense, but I was just like, I was like, is this the theories I've read online? And I feel like it's half there.
So, fair enough, it's actually one of the few books I haven't read. I do own, for a certain point of view, when it comes down to this, but from my own conversation with people, yeah, it's that similar vein of, yeah, R5 knew that R2 had a mission to do. He was on his own mission and kind of went, okay, yep, I'm going to, not, it wasn't committed suicide, he literally blew a motivator. It's a case of like, oh no, look at me, I'm broken merchandise. You need to take the good one. Because, of course, you can't tell 3PO that because 3PO blabs to everyone, but R2 knows far too much, and people kind of don't realize this sometimes. He's never had a memory wipe, and there's a reason for this. So, yeah, R5 is the little hero that we didn't know we had, but definitely deserve.
Buzzing, and that's something I wanted to ask because I know, again, 99.9% of people that's just like a nod. Great, no one cares about the history, but others will. And it's a great way, I this brief amount of attention, like, oh, a Mandalorian was a rebel, like that's an interesting turn. But I'm glad it obviously wasn't that. And again, setting up this story of a few episodes ago when Mando's joking that.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Sorry, just a minute. When I talk about it, I did for a second wonder if we were going to see Sabine.
Well, that's also on my thing to talk about later on, because there's someone's going off to collect some Mandalorians, and there's a clan that they could need to talk to. But I guess a little bit later. But the Mandalorian stuff, you kind of get into Paz Vizsla, here's the speech, let's go to Navarro, let's help them. The Paz Vizsla stuff's become really interesting to me this week because, as I said, he's a character at small moments. I wouldn't say he was a fan favorite. I think people enjoyed it, but I think now we've got to see him a lot more. Certainly, and I don't think it's the ego of Jon Favreau. I'm just going to say that now. I just think it's that people like this sort of shredded, ripped Mandalorian that's different to the others, that's bulky, that's shredded, that carries a heavy blaster, not the normal stuff. And I love this moment where they really went for the tension between them. They played on the flashback, him sort of disagreeing with Mando in Book of Boba Fett. Great flashback if you haven't watched Book of Boba Fett. But they were building him up to try and tear him down. People died because of him, all because this bloody small foundling. And then actually, it's the complete 180 that he's become loyal to him. That it was his son that he saved in Bo-Katan. And this was kind of talking about earlier. There are seeds in place for me for not a Mandalore civil war, but that splinter group. If you draw a line down the middle, I think he's loyal to Din moving forward now. And it was a really great character moment for him because he's not had the chance to do that yet. And I think that's something we're going to get a lot more of with him. And even when he gets the battle later on, when he just comes down and just obliterates everyone and just takes he takes like a cannon fire, like one hit to the chest, and just gets up and is fine. And I love this sort of thing that, one of the best things sort of sticking with the Mandalorians at the campfire, the actual seeing the Mandalorians together in unison and fight was some of the best we've seen in the series as a whole. And I know a lot of people love the ending of Chapter 3 when they all flew out, the sewers and they had a great fight. I never minded that scene. I didn't love it as much as the rest, but certainly today was where I felt like they wanted to do a proper Mandalorian. Here's how they function. Here's how they work as a team. Here's them setting up a plan of action. And I loved everything they did. And talking Peter Ramsey's direction, who most people know from Into the Spider-Verse, he was one of the directors on that film. When they announced him to doing a Mandalorian episode, I remember there was a lot of curiosity that, not many people make the jump from animation to live action. Of course, Dave Filoni has and is still doing so. But it was really interesting that this was an episode to give to him, and I think he absolutely nailed the direction today. To be weaving so many different stories together, to make it clear, concise, to not bog people down with certain tropes, with certain things. Visually, it was, I think, the best episode of the series so far. With the incredible. I mean, I know we had that great space battle earlier in the season, but having the land battle with the air battle again, I know it's a pirate ship, and it's that. It felt different to other episodes. It felt like one of the best.
Yeah, ironically, I'm actually sat here with one of my gauntlet from X-Wing, literally sat on my desk from where I was having to use it fairly recently. And actually, there's an upgrade for it, which is drop seat commandos, where you literally have Mandalorian commandos drop out the damn thing onto the into the mat, and then basically they do their own thing. But so I had that in my mind, and of course, we now finally have got the last piece of the trailer we hadn't yet seen, which is the drop seat bay. But this felt very much this was coordinated. This is finally the Mandalorians doing what Mandalorians do best. This is clear leadership with clear instructions, being badass and going, right, we have names to take, we have people to save. This is what we're going to do. This is a coordinated attack. We've got the N1, we've got the gauntlet. We're not many, but we are better. And we're going to go and sort this lot out. And yeah, when you have Paz Vizsla being, it's how I play X-Wing, it's how I do a lot of things in life. Big guns, big armor, I'm just going to stand and obliterate you. Bring it on. It was so well done. Yes, his loyalty very much lies with Din. However, he also was very quick to say it's not only Din, but also with Bo. She also did not give up when we did. He shamed the other Mandalorians for saying she did not give up even when we did on my son. So she is on the pedestal as well. He's going, look, you might be an outsider, but you're not anymore. Because, of course, in the previous episode, when she joins, he doesn't even give her the time of day. He goes, okay, you're one of us without kind of being one of us. Now it's very much a, no, she has proven to me why she is who she is. Let's just go forward with this. And it's a fantastic set piece. And then, yes, sorry, excuse me.
Sorry.
The space battle is one thing, but this is another. We have the coordinated attacks. You have the very much, I will go and distract them. You take on the ship. You go to the town, drop them off, come back, hit the ship. I've distracted them. Before you know it, they've been hit on 3 fronts. They can't even defend one. It is so well done and so well coordinated. And it is, it's Mandalore.
Yeah, and I think we need it at this point in time that we've spent so much time with them in the cave. We've seen them, little bits. We got them, of course, last week with the flying creature, with them at episode 1, with the, the thing at the water where they weren't functioning as well. And this is where, again, the Bo-Katan stuff. Who led the attack? Who did the plan? It was all Bo-Katan again. And what it is setting up with that fight in itself, the pirate ships going down, the people from Navarro going to the mines, which I loved. And again, the volume looking amazing, as it always does in The Mandalorian. It's quite incredible, the technology. I mean, not to get into a discussion on Ant-Man, but Thor, Ant-Man, both directors that worked on The Mandalorian, both directors that used the volume, both directors that couldn't utilize it for their own films. Whether or not it should just be for TV at the moment, or whether or not Lucasfilm /ILM /Stagecraft is just the trio designed in heaven for one another, that it just fundamentally works every single time they need to do anything. Don't know if it's the crew, I don't know what it is, but it looked bloody amazing. And, when I got home and watched it on my second viewing with my dad, sometimes, and I say this a lot now, I just sit thinking, how is this on TV? How wasn't this a $200 million film? How am I watching this in my lounge every week? It's quite incredible. And without getting to Doctor Who, obviously Disney Plus is giving Doctor Who a big cash injection, and Doctor Who might find it like it's from the 21st century this year when it does start up, which is great for that as well. And it's great for the industry that lower budgets are going to be able to do these more extravagant projects, and and when the $200 million films are trying to do this for the sake of cost saving and not getting location, they deserve to look terrible, because this utilizes it in a way where they can't do it, which is the most important thing. And again, taking a director, Peter Ramsey, who'd probably never used this technology, I know he's done animation, very different industries within the film industry. I just thought it looked amazing, and kind of even when it finished, I love the idea that it's great. Let's all chill in Navarro. It's like playing Monopoly. Like, we've got ourselves a hotel. And then straight away, the armor needs to speak to you, Bo-Katan. Snoke vibes. Take that ridiculous thing off. I can't help but think it whenever someone takes helmet off in Star Wars these days. But let's talk this scene, because a lot of people have very different ideas about this, which I love. Because things aren't, they're not running this like A to B to C. It's for you to interpret how is the plot going to move forward, what are characters going to do. My interpretation of the final scene of Bo-Katan today, Bo-Katan to unite. The armor wants her to be the face of Mandalore. The armor is happy for her to have a helmet off, to walk both ways, to unite them all. This is the seeds. Well, I say seeds. This is the plan of someone that is, if you get into John Wick vibes, about to make Din Djarin excommunicado. He holds the key to Mandalore. He has the Darksaber, not Bo-Katan, not the Armorer, Din Djarin. This series is clearly going in a direction which we knew with Bo-Katan to be the face. And you said she's not an outright villain. She is somebody that wants to see her planet reunited. It's her duty, her obligation as the leader of Mandalore to reunite Mandalore, which is why her arc has been so compelling so far. And I love that the armor is slowly revealing her cards now, that she wants it to be her, not Din. She wants it to be her. And there's something else in play. But for me, the way I read that final scene is that at some point this season, Din's going to get betrayed. And we're going to be in for one of the most ruthless, I say ruthless, not Game of Thrones-esque, but there's going to be some big division within this group of Mandalorians. And it opens the door to other Mandalorians we've seen who want to come back. A certain Clan Ren, who were last seen in Rebels, who has had an actress cast as Sabine for Ahsoka coming out this summer. The first person cast from that, I'm going to add aside from Ahsoka for obvious reasons. But Phil, before we theorize that, your thoughts on that scene?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. And I completely also agree with everything you're saying. For me, what I love most, and this is what I love about Katie Sackhoff as an actress, when it comes down to helmets, everyone knows that playing a helmet is hard to do because you have to convey emotions without being able to physically see them. It's the same thing George Lucas used to say jokingly to Anthony Daniels. It's like, yeah, this is good, but give me more emotion. And playing that kind of character is hard to do. It's all about body language. And when you have Emily Swallow as the armor turn around to Bo and go, take off your helmet. Bo is standing going, why? I'm actually starting to believe I'm actually here. You gave me the choice to be with you. Why are you taking that choice away from me? And then, of course, she plays the, do you not respect my station? Of course, well, I do. Well, take your helmet off then. She takes it off, but you see it's so unwilling, which is, if you go back to season 1, is really not where she was. She despised the Creed at that point. She despised the Children of the Watch. She despised everything where it came from. At this point, she's found her second home. She knows what she wants, and she's pretty dedicated to the cause because it's been proven to her why. And now she's standing there going, well, okay, but there better be a point behind this. You're not about to kick me out, are you? Aha! See, you removed your helmet. You're not one of us, even though I told you to.
I did think that very briefly. I was like, they're not that cheap to do that in Star Wars. I thought they might, though. No. I was worried. I thought they might, but thank God they didn't.
I thought it might be a test. Where it's that you were supposed to keep it on. You have failed. You are no longer walking the way. But no, she turned around and gone. I thought, actually, to be fair, I generally thought for a second Emily Swallow was going to take her helmet off as well.
Same. It will happen at some point.
It will.
Not this season, but at some point in the show, that helmet's coming off. And you know what? People want a name. People want it to be someone who's there. Let it be someone new. It doesn't matter what it was.
But like Sabine before him, Din doesn't want to rule. Din just wants to do what's right. So I don't think he'll put up too much of a fight, but it'll come down to those who support him versus those who support Bo. It'll be civil war again because it's what Mandalorians do best because they're based off of a feudal system. The entire way of Mandalore is based off of feudal Japan. And it's called feudal for a reason. They work together, but they didn't get on that well. And it's survival of the fittest. Whoever is the strongest wins. And he who leads, people follow. It's going to come down to a very much, I don't want to have to do this, but my own interpretation of what I want for our people is this, and you're getting in my way. And that'll be from both their points of view. Not one, it'll be from both.
Yeah. it's really interesting and kind of in line with the leadership stuff, as you said with Sabine with Din. As I've said, I've had this vision of Din on the throne for many years, and it's because he doesn't want it. And listen, Dune. I mean, Dune is his tale as old as time, but I think the quote from Dune is: "A great man doesn't seek to lead; he is called to it."
Yeah.
If I've got it wrong, someone please comment. But it is one of those things that the most reluctant leaders are the ones that are often the best. And I don't want to get into real life
Yeah, I
politics.
mean, you can even take, if you want to go down a darker route, you can even take it from Satanism. For a man who is born to be king shall be king. A man who believes he is king shall never be so. It's that whole line of, if you are born to be this way, you will lead. You will be who you are. If you try and force it, it's not going to happen. Bit of a darker road to go, I know, but the actual similarities in the scenario make sense to kind of bring the comparison up.
It is absolutely true, and I think it's important for this that we know Bo-Katan wants the throne, and sometimes you think for herself. At the moment, you don't think for herself; you do think for her planet. But the way it's going, I'm very excited, and I love the fact the Armor's just playing with her at this point. She's, I mean, talking about Paz Vizsla again, the confusion when she took the helmet off. He must be saying, "Wait, at what point can you do both?" And how many years has someone like him been there? And that's what I was really intrigued by is how are they going to respond to that? They've been brought up in this environment where you can always follow these rules, and then they're just magically wanting to. You've gone both ways.
It's not just that though. It's the fact that he's just looked at and gone, "I have just stood up for you. I have just followed you. I didn't give you the time of day before because I didn't respect you, and now you throw that back in my face." Is almost the look there before the armor speaks. That's the look on his face behind the helmet is, what the hell is going on? I have just given you my honor and my credibility, and now you've thrown it back in my face. Until the armor speaks, in which case he respects her, then it all makes sense. He's like, okay, I am confused, but okay. And it makes sense, though, to have the one outsider who didn't walk the way, has walked both ways, to then go, okay, she is the right person to bring people together because she has seen both sides of the story, and she's starting to believe more. And I believe the Mythosaur is going to come back in a big way as well. The fact that I get back to Mandalore, there's so much scope to this, and it's really the long game of Filoni. Yeah. And it's one of those things of he is the chosen one for a damn reason, because this is just, it's all coming to a point.
Yeah, I am with you in that, and kind of in line with that. Even long term, looking down the line, I do think that this is Filoni. I mean, we know that Favreau is writing this, but we know that Filoni's in his ear. And when it comes down to Mandalore, there's no one that's learned that mythology better and had that application across, Rebels, Ahsoka, that's going to be involved in there with the Ren stuff, and a lot of other things. And it's exciting. It's exciting that we have something to think about with this season. We know where it is going, and it just keeps delivering week after week. And kind of, if we head on to the final scene of the episode, the brief, the Atlantic class shuttle, which was, I thought, again, Bo-Katan, great. Traditional Star Wars wipe. Into the credits we go. No, here's an extra scene. And you've got to say, this is the interesting one. It's all interesting, sorry. But this is the one where I'm sat here thinking, okay. Either. And listen, I'm not going to talk about, there was a shuttle. Oh, look, it was Moff Gideon's. I mentioned earlier that the Moff Gideon stuff is very, very risky for them to do off screen, with it being such an important character. I do think they're going to address it properly. I think now we've had I think it's going to be something that you find out more and more about, and then maybe episode 7 we'll get like a proper revelation backstory or something to happen to Moff Gideon, and maybe we'll see it.
I think it'll be episode 6. I think 7 and 8, because we've got Celebration coming up. They'll give us the backstory and the information we need. They won't give us the ending. If you leave it to the ending, there's going to be, I reckon, beforehand, because again, Celebration's right around the corner, and call it cynicism if you like, but you got to drum up some hype. Although, yes, we're all hyped anyway.
There'll be something. It's Bryce Dallas Howard next week. That's the big one. Yes. Bryce Dallas Howard's directing again, and I think it's been talked about 44 minutes for episode 6. But just kind of the Moff Gideon stuff. There's a lot of theories doing the rounds. I don't want to be arrogant, but I'm going to tell you my one, and I think my one is the one a lot of people both want and think it to be. Oh, is that Mandalorian? Is that Beskar? That must be Mandalorian. Oh my god, it's the Mandalorians. Certain blue man on board his ship laughing because he's just finessed the New Republic. I think this is Thrawn. I think he is setting not necessarily a trap. his scheme is starting to come to light, and for whatever reason, him making sure Moff Gideon never made his way to the New Republic is both important to that. If he's dead, I don't know. If he's a prisoner because he failed, I don't know. I think ultimately this is the start of Thrawn coming into the Mandalorian, and I think Thrawn is going to be in the final episode of the series. I'm just going to say it now. Don't know what capacity, cameo, revelation, 5-second moment. Don't care. I think we're going to get Thrawn this season, and I think this is way past the point of Moff Gideon. Not to discredit Moff Gideon, but you know how it ended at season 2. He got took out by a Jedi. That moment of panic and fear on his face when he saw Luke Skywalker coming through. There is no way he was just suddenly able to have a plan in action in case he got captured. This is someone above him who is leading this behind the scenes remnants of the Empire. But Phil, to you, am I overthinking it, or was it just some Mandalorians that just wanted to get him?
No. He has been lifted. He has been saved because he knows too much. What he knows, we'll find out in due course. I do think it could be Thrawn, but at the same time, I'm also wondering if it's going to be the messenger. If it's going to be something to do with, of course, with Inferno Squadron's whole deal of Operation Cinder, Year of Aftermath. You have so many different plot points of how the Empire ended and where the First Order begins. I use air quotations very carefully when it comes to the Empire ending, because the Empire never ends; it just reinvents itself. The Republic, after Chancellor Palpatine took over from Chancellor Valorum, it was the end. The Republic no longer existed. It was the Empire finally beginning in motion. By the time it's the end of Attack of the Clones, the Empire has arrived. And at the moment, I'm rewatching Rebels as I was painting up, funny enough, my list for Worlds, which was like 2 Fire Sprays and a Hawk, which actually went really well. And as I was watching it, the last episode I watched, one of the last 2 was Last Battle, which is, of course, where you have Kalani and his droids versus Rex and the Rebels, and then you find out, oh dear, and the Empire comes on the end. And when Kalani turns around and says, well, who won? Zeb turns around and goes, the Empire. Goes, well, that's right. How do you know? Because they're about to win again, because the Empire then shows up. It's the Empire all along. And it's the way this is supposed to be, because episode 9, I feel, and this is the very first time I'm going to say this, and I know I'm probably get some flack for it, I feel episode 9 is going to age well, and I think it's because of what they're now having to do in the shows to build up all those points. I still don't like episode 9. I still put it down the bottom, and I hate the fact we're now having to watch so much to understand it so much better. There's still so many flaws. However, they have recognized this. They are now correcting this, and how it all ties together will be an important thing. And I do think that, yes, I do think it's Thrawn pulling the strings, and with what happened today, what's happened in the last 2 weeks in Bad Batch, what's happening through with Mandalorian, it's so many pieces coming together with all the cloning, all the rest of it. So yes, Thrawn's a big part of this, and I do wonder where he is and what's going on.
No, I'm with you on that, and I'm the same episode. I don't want to get into the whole, it's going to age well. I'll still give it more time. I personally, myself, I don't think, not going to get over it, but what's important to me, and this is a reflection of the sequel trilogy, now the 3 films are done, and I think we've said this for many years, the 3 films are done, fill in the gap. And one of the fatal issues of the trilogy is that it covers a mighty span of 1 year. That there is 1 year between episode 7 and 9, which I fundamentally think one of the worst possible things they did. Even if you just said there's a 3-year gap between 8 and 9, fine. You just didn't need to say 1 year gap. There is nothing at all that had any logic, any reward for being a 1 year gap. When you know in the middle of that gap is the Galaxy's Edge ride, which is meant to be incredible.
My friends are currently on the hotel as we speak.
But this is kind of it. Like, again, I'm trying to avoid the sequels, but because there's no gap in that trilogy, you can't really plug the gap between those films.
No.
So the only gap they can really go for is the gap from
before and after.
And listen, some of the most exciting stuff in Star Wars is the gap between 3 and 4. You know, it's 19 years. This is 30 years. 30 years
Between
to
6 and
play
7,
around.
yeah.
They could do whatever they want. And we've known that this has always been a projection that they would start filling this out when those films are done. And as I said, The Mandalorian, you know, from the day one of that announcement of the First Order being in that Instagram post that Jon Favreau put up, I'm excited to see what they want to do with this. And Bad Batch we'll talk about tomorrow, but I did not expect Bad Batch to take a direction where I guess just because the concept of the Bad Batch is very childish, I've always thought, the, you know, squad of misfits, kid orientated, not just an animated show in general, but you know how they were in their episodes of Clone Wars is fair to say. How dark they've made that show, which is great. They've put some of the best.
I'm so looking forward to talking to you about it because I've kept my mouth shut. I've been very respectful to Dave and George.
I know.
But I have wanted so desperately to talk about so many things. I'll get my chance tomorrow. But
yes, and
I 100% agree with exactly what you're saying. The gap could not be plugged, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and this is it. You could do a lot between. There was a lot you could. I mean, I guess you could say there's a lot between episode 1 and there's a big gap between episode 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 than there is from 7 to 9. And again, you know, put your criticisms wherever you want to put them. They're all valid. Making episode 7 a cliffhanger, you can go back as far as that. I don't mind the cliffhanger. 7 and 8 is a lovely double bill. And then again, because they're back to back, make a gap longer from 8 to 9. I'm not just going to sit and moaning because I don't like doing that, but it's it is something that again, Lucasfilm have got this films out now. They can do whatever they want and do it, fill in that gap. And Mandalorian is doing an amazing job of it, and it's got so many people invested in it. And you know, as I said, people are well right for their thoughts on their sequel trilogy. I'm never going to distance say, oh, no, you can't think that about those films. Never has that been part of what I say about those. But certainly I'm curious to see viewings, because at the moment I don't sit and say, oh, well, they're just trying to justify it. It's not they're trying to justify it. That's canon now, and they have to write around it. You know, it's not justification. It's now story development. And I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see where the show's going to go for the next few weeks. Of course, what happens with Ahsoka. And so many other things. And this is it. They're juggling a lot of balls, and they're doing a great job of doing so. And kind of segueing into final thoughts on this episode, I think this is the best episode of the series so far by quite a considerable gap. Last week, I absolutely loved. Last week was amazing and important episodes. But this week, as I said, it was almost like a mid. It's almost like there was like a little mid-season break that if it wasn't on for 2 weeks, I'd understand, because you've sort of tied up the first load. But once again, we sit here and say, don't have any idea where they're going to go with it next week. And,
no, we finally got all the previews out the way. Now it's completely unknown. And yeah, I was thinking about this earlier. I was literally, this is the best season so far, apart from the end of season 2, because I'm a Luke fanboy. And to be fair, it was cracky anyway. But taking season 2 aside, I would stack season 3, season 1, then season 2 in that order of season 3 is the best, season 2 is the worst. And that's worse as in a horrible way of looking at it, because it's all good. But season 1 was just set up. Here's your story. Here's where it's going. Season 2 was development. Season 3 has been the wider world of Star Wars development. And that's what needed to happen. But you can't do it in 5 minutes. And Filoni knows this. This is Filoni's strong point. He might have there's some bits I clash with when it comes down to gods, especially. I mean, we all know my thoughts on the Mortis trilogy. But give the man the credit where he deserves it. He knows how to tell a long-form story, and this is proof in the pudding. Rebels is much the same with Thrawn. This is much the same with Moff Gideon and potentially Thrawn, with the Mandalorians, with everything that's coming. It's, I'm so excited to see how it's going to end. I don't know where it's going to go.
Absolutely. And kind of that being said, that's going to round out our thoughts on Chapter 21, The Pirate. Not as much pirate talk as we thought, but what I guess we need to talk about, plugging some things. And I'm just going to say, look at this video. Obviously, we spoke about a Bad Batch. Season 2 review is going to be live tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. That's going to be me and Phill on there. We'll be talking about the season. I haven't written a schedule yet, but we will. So if you were just curious about thoughts on the season as a whole, we'll do that. We'll pinpoint a couple of episodes we loved, some story arcs we liked. But that's just going to be an overall review of the season. So do check that out. We've got a lot of other Star Wars stuff happening. The Mandalorian spoiler discussions every Wednesday. Big thing here. Next Wednesday, me, you, and Dave have all spoke. We're going to be doing the episode next Wednesday very early. The episodes drop at 8 a.m. UK time. Obviously, Star Wars Celebration is the Friday. We're all in London from the Thursday, but people are traveling. People have got places to be. People have got to pack. Dave's going to be on a coach on the Wednesday night. I'm going to be in probably not bed, but we're going to drop the spoiler discussion very early next Wednesday.
I will probably be finishing Kanan at that point. It's going to be tight, but...
And this is it. We've all got our own lives. We love talking. We love hanging out. The chance to do so in person, everyone's great. But just because, we still want to get the video out, we're not going to have a chance otherwise. We're going to go live next Wednesday morning, I think 10 a.m. UK time. Maybe 11 a.m. I don't know. I know a lot of people are in London at that point that are flying over. So I'll be with them in the afternoon, which is why I wanted to know earlier. But Mandalorian next Wednesday early in the day. There's a lot of other videos. Star Wars-wise, there's going to be another preview for Star Wars Celebration on Sunday. Time is not yet confirmed. We have Elliot coming on, Hakuna Matata, who's on a lot of our Spielberg stuff, who's great to get on. He's Londoner. We're going to be talking London, stuff you can do outside the convention, stuff to do in London, travel advice, more tips as always. We're going to talk about the lottery results. I know we were quite gleeful earlier, and we know it's not been... Well, a lot of people have missed out, and I know exactly how it is to feel like that. And we're going to try and talk about ways to work around it and things like that. So there's going to be another episode of the Star Wars Celebration preview, and we'll be getting catering for everyone. I'm not just going to sit saying I've got X, ABC, X, Y, Z. I know people that have got into all 5 panels. I know a lot of people have got into none. So there's going to be a heavy discussion on that, I think, which is absolutely fair to have. And oh god, what else is there? It's just at the moment it's all Star Wars. It's fucking great. It's like being back on One to the Force. Yeah. It's Star Wars is here. We're here. As I said, we've got a Star Wars theme. It's all in yellow. But as a Bad Batch season 2 review coming tomorrow, and Saturday night we're going to be live for a non-Star Wars video, our untitled monthly movie show where we go through all the films we've watched this month. But I will get to talk about Star Wars because I've seen John Wick 4, which has Donnie Yen in it. So I'll be talking about that and a few other things. But yeah, Phil, it's been a pleasure to have you back on.
As always. And if I can do my own quick little brief plug for my TikTok at Phill009, you'll see not only you'll see my journey when I went to go and play in the X-Wing World Championships out in Chicago. There's also posting about my Kanan cosplay. Literally, the bottom half of the shoulder piece is on the printer as we speak. The top half finished off yesterday. Finished this morning. I've got the van brace that's in 4 pieces I need to join together. So the journey of building that will be posted over the next week, and there's a lot of videos to come. So if you like that kind of thing, just follow me on TikTok at Phill009. You'll see all that, as well as the rest of my content as well. But yeah, just a small little plug. Thank you for letting me just kind of jump in that one. But it's going to be cool. And obviously, Dave and George will be part of that journey. They'll see the Kanan cosplay as well. So it's
because we don't have TikTok. That's why we don't have TikTok. No. We never know what to do. No. Carl Graves, listen, Carl, great to get you on, my friend, as always. We'll be seeing you at the event as well. Listen, Star Wars Celebration, I cannot wait. We're 9 days away from the event starting. As I said, Matt from Blue Banther's on his flight to the UK now, which is pretty a 31-hour flight. Fair play. So it's going to be one of those where it's going to be an exciting week. And video-wise, we've still got videos. As I said, we'll have stuff at Celebration to hand out for anyone that we see. Not in a weird way, but just people are lovely there. It's going to be an insane event. And as I said, if you are going, if you're looking for some tips, some advice, we've got 2 videos on the channel. Stars Explained's got a really good video. They've been to a lot of celebrations as well, so they're talking about their own advice. And as I said, if you have any questions, anything you want us to bring up on the stream, let us know, and we shall. Other than that, me and Phil will be back tomorrow. We'll be talking Bad Batch. There's a lot to talk about with that. And I will do a schedule because it can't be too long, Phil. But it's going to be an insane discussion. Some of the story arcs from that have completely blown me away. And again, just never thought we'd get in a Bad Batch show, which I'll be talking about. So that's going to be our overextended. Thank you to everyone for watching, for plugging stuff. Do join us, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
See you later, guys.